I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Superintendent, please call the roll.
Mr. Austin.
Present.
Ms. Chisholm.
Here.
Ms. Cormier.
Present.
Ms. Crowley.
Present.
Mr. Moreno.
Present.
Ms. Wetzel.
Present.
Mr. Lipset.
Present. All right, we have first on the agenda approval of 326 and 327 minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment. Is there any member of the public who wishes to address the committee? So we are opening the floor to public comment. I want to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed by Woburn Public Media, and so by appearing in public comment, you are agreeing to have your statement broadcast. Please limit any remarks to no more than 3 minutes, and I ask that you refrain from any personal attacks directed at any staff member of the Woburn Public Schools.
Did we approve 327 minutes?
We just approved both. Yes.
Oh, okay. We did them both?
Yeah.
I apologize. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Did you have anything on them?
No, I didn't. I just wanted to make sure.
Because that would be a first. So. All right.
I object.
I apologize. Ms. Cooper.
No, I apologize.
Hi, my name is Rachel Kuberry, and I live on Blake Street in the current Harold-Wyman district. My kids walk to school. We live half a mile away from the Harold-Wyman, and we live over a mile away from the next closest elementary school to Malcolm White. I remain concerned about the timeline for that our redistrict, and it's not feasible. It sounds like we're trying to do too much in too little time. Every other Massachusetts district that I looked at took well over a year and sometimes a decade to get to implementing a full redistrict, including our neighboring towns of Stoneham and Lexington. I strongly urge the committee and administration to consider a redistricting plan that phases in changes and is the least disruptive plan that still meets the goals of the redistrict. To that end, I would like to see the goals of the redistrict published and shared with the public. In listening to conversations around the district over the last week, I've heard that the redistrict could cause major changes for all learners. I want to pause here. We already did that. The COVID-19 pandemic affected at least half of the students and families in question right now. It's your responsibility to find the solution that provides the greatest improvement while causing the least amount of change. While we could no doubt create an amazing solution with major disruptions, we don't need to do that. We simply need a solution that is good enough and is disruptive in the smallest way possible. To get to a greater end, however, we could phase in the redistrict as many of the surrounding towns have done. Now to speak more specifically about the Harold-Wyman, my current school. The school's district is unique in that it stretches literally from past the Joyce all the way past the Kennedy. In studying the maps and talking with friends, neighbors, and some of you about this, it's difficult to imagine a solution for the Harold-Wyman that also fixes the middle school districting without causing major disruptions. While I have supported an elementary redistrict that fixes the middle school districting, I'm realizing that that might not be possible, and I'm okay with that. Fixing the middle school lines was not a top priority in the previous redistricting discussions. Therefore, I caution against including this as a main priority now, given the abridged timeline that we face. Finally, I ask the committee to create and share priorities or criteria that they will use to evaluate the proposed new district maps. Better yet, include the community's voice in developing these priorities. In these priorities, I want to see geography closely considered. Walking to and from school is a critical part of family routine. Being close to your school builds independence for students. This is true of elementary students and middle school students alike. I look forward to seeing the priorities that the committee identifies in hopes they include geography, demographics, transportation, community impact, cost savings, and more. I see the drivers of the redistrict. I understand the budget implications, the need for diversity at all our schools, and paving the path for an MSBA proposal. I do not, however, believe that a plan that causes major changes for everyone is appropriate or necessary. Please bring the community on board through this process. Share your goals and priorities for the redistrict with us. Please also recognize that the timeline very well may be too short and start discussions around a phased-in redistrict. We can't wait to start these discussions. There just isn't time.
Thank you. If you wouldn't mind leaving that copy with that with Mr. Platt.
It's a real messy copy.
All right. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the committee tonight? Okay. Seeing no one. I do not see our city council liaison here, and Mr. Bonifetti is not with us yet. So we can move on to reports, presentations of superintendent and staff. Dr. Crown.
So I do, I think we're safe. I need the committee to vote on the last day of school. And as it currently stands, it's June 20th would be the last day for students and staff. It'd be an early release day. I thought we were safe 2 weeks ago, but I would have been nervous. So at this point, think it's fair to ask the committee to take that vote.
I'll make a motion that we report June 20th as the final day of school with an early release.
Second?
Any discussion on that motion?
The only thing are we
Ms.
in
Chisholm.
regulation for graduation?
Yes.
Is that within 12 days?
Mhm.
Just so I don't. Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor of adopting the last day of school as June 20th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No, that's 2024, sorry.
Yes, 2024, thank you,
Okay.
yes. It's important clarification.
Close.
Is it possible to, I know we don't have a school calendar finalized yet, is it
Yeah.
possible to update on
Yeah,
that at all?
so I can update that. The first day back for for staff rather, is Tuesday, September 3rd. And then first day for students would be Thursday, September 5th. And we are working on the calendar itself in conjunction with the WTA. So we should have that in the near future.
Thank you very much.
Just,
Yes,
I think that's 14 days. I just want to double check to make sure we may have to apply for a waiver for the graduation. Because I think it's 14 days and I
Okay,
think
let me-
12 is.
I'll
just so we can-
I'll follow up
Thanks.
with you and Desi.
Yeah, thank you.
Counting Juneteenth,
Oh, yes.
so that's.
So with 13 days, yes, one,
Because I thought that we counted that it was going to be, if we went a day, it was going to be a day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or going to be 1 day.
I-
Just check.
I'll contact.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Thank you for bringing that
yeah.
up. All right, that brings us to our FY25 updates.
Sure. So a lot of this will look familiar to you, and then we'll provide some updates as we get through the presentation. But for the benefit of people that haven't seen this, we're obviously in the midst of the FY25 budget. And we've had multiple meetings with the Finance Subcommittee meeting. Ms. Chisholm will report out some of that today. We've also had many conversations with Mayor Concanon, City Auditor Doherty, and members of my leadership team to try to figure out how to work collaboratively with the city. One of the things that I want to say is, I recognize that we're part of the city, but I also recognize that, our job is to advocate for the schools, and we're doing our best to do that, and try to do that in a way that is collaborative, but also that, we're clearly the most important department in the city. So,
Nice.
but our kids matter, and so. That being said, our budget is aligned to our strategic plan, as we've talked through. As we talked about at the last meeting, we passed the budget last year at $78.9 million, and then we've added $1.1 million onto the salaries because of various factors, including what I would call the churn in Woburn. The numbers here change every day, and since our last meeting, we've added 13 new kids. And so I looked it up this morning to be able to tell you that. And so we are cognizant of that and trying to budget so that we're not adding positions in September or October, but that we have the staff we need when we open the doors. So our starting point for this year, we determined it to be approximately $80 million. So our FY25 proposed at this point is $90.7 million, which is a 13.39% increase from last year. And that's different than the last meeting we had, where it was at 16.9%. And so we will walk through some of the changes that we've made since the last meeting. The drivers to the budget are salary increases, are approximately 38 or 39% of the budget. We'd like to add 16 FTEs to the budget. The ESSER money goes away, and so that's 1.7 million. Our special ed line items continue to increase, the ESY program, out of district, those types of needs for our kids. Special ed transportation has gone up. It's approximately a $4 million line item. Electricity has gone up. That's a $2 million line item. So, I mean, we pay electrical bills at home. The costs have escalated. There's some curricular line items. The homeless transportation has gone up. The number of students that require homeless transportation is higher than it's ever been, and the cost is skyrocketed as well. So, and those are variable costs that we plan, and then we're legally bound by McKinney-Vento to provide transportation. So we do. And again, we're trying to budget for FY25 appropriately and not underfund, and then have to come back and say we didn't properly fund this line item because we were trying to meet a percent. Our challenges, again, this number changed. Like I just said, it's 40. We have 4,526 students, so that's up since the last meeting from 4,513. And the EL number went from 14.6 to 14.8 since the last meeting. So things are happening in real time in the city of Woburn. And we talked about it last year. Again, we plan, and then people are moving in and moving out at all times. So it's a tribute to our staff who are with the kids every day, the administrative assistants who are keeping track of the students coming and going, and it's a team effort, but it's a challenge. And so I want to make sure that we are saying that publicly. This is not the Woburn of even 5 or 6, 7 years ago. Things are not stagnant. They are changing every day. Our high needs students, this is a new slide. In 2020, we had 45.4% of students who are high needs, and this is composed of economically disadvantaged, our EL/ML student population, and our special ed population. That those merged together create our high needs population. And so, as you can see, as of October 1st of this year, we are, as a district, 56.3% high needs. And so that number, because everything else has changed, is probably higher than 56.3%. But I just wanted to publicly demonstrate the increase of students who require more of us as policymakers and people that are making financial decisions, but they require more of staff, and the staff are doing everything they possibly can, and it's our job to support them. And so I'll turn to Mr. Dizio at this point to take over, because a lot of it is related directly to the finance.
Thanks, Dr. Crowley. One thing that has remained constant from the changes that we made from the last budget is that you'll still see that more than 75% of the current proposed budget is salary-driven. That's that big blue circle there. And then another 18% makes up other contractual obligations, such as transportation, utilities, out of district. The big takeaway is that only about 7% is left over for supplies, other operational costs. So there really isn't much, room for us to play around with here. This is a pretty tight budget, and what's in there is stuff that we need. So that brings us to some of the changes we made since the last budget, and I'll highlight some of these. So these are all to get down to the new 13.39%. So first and foremost, the city has agreed that we can remove the $1.8 million in out of district. This reduces the previous budget by 1.92%. Redistricting, you see here, that's still a rough estimate based on sort of our best guess right now. We're expecting about $500,000 or 0.53% decrease there. What else do we have? We also saw a reduction in what we expect for out-of-district tuitions by about 0.27% or $250,000. One other area that we looked at is we have a few vacancies that we were able to reduce from a Master's 5 to a Master's 3. This is without having to do anything further with the budget, but it did reduce it by 0.19%. One other area that we looked into was positions that we could move into grant-funded positions. And by doing this, we were able to reduce the budget by another 0.3%.
I can provide some context on some of these.
Yep.
The assistant principal is the Reeves assistant principal. Last year, that position was in the preschool revolving account. Again, to some of this, we will eventually have to move back in, but we are able to have it remain in the preschool revolving account for next year. So that would be moving that position back. It was funded there this past year. It will go back to being funded there for the upcoming school year. The Master's 5 vacancies to Master's 3, I just want to state that is not, as in the past, like we've kept our BCBAs as a Master's 8. That was not touching the positions that we know that we could not hire at a 3. This was positions that we felt comfortable reducing to a 3. I don't want to seem like we're making decisions that we know that we can't do. Kind of key special ed personnel as well as like BCBA positions remained at the number that we still feel comfortable as our higher number. In terms of the out of districts, I don't want to speak too much for Maureen, but what I can say is that she did sit down with the city auditor, went through all of the numbers, comfortably moved around, and kind of felt comfortable in both the city auditor in terms of kind of the finalized number that they landed on and looking out for the remainder of this year through next year. And so this number was what she felt comfortable in the budget as. Also, it was looking at what had come in through circuit breaker for this year. They ended up having additional savings this year that they had not anticipated getting. And so she was able to make kind of this final adjustment in number as well as an agreement on the city side with that number. And then in terms of the one vacant custodial position, we have many vacant positions across the district right now. This is, when we say one vacancy, this is looking at like it wouldn't necessarily be one place. It's written as an overall. If we were kind of splitting, we'd be looking at where it went. Again, that was something that we felt like we could at this time here. Just want to make sure.
And the building subs, in the budget, there were two, or the budget request, there were two building subs. And at 22,000, I think was the number. And so, we took them out. They were at the Goodyear and the Malcolm White. Again, we're trying to do our best to.
I think what we talked about with those two is that those are, certainly again, we go into some of our buildings at a time where we do extended daily subs, where we work with Jean to assign someone there for like a few weeks at a time as we need to. This was kind of looking at the buildings that we do that more frequently in and just kind of having the position there. That's not to say that we could not through next year still say as needed to do those extensions in the places. We're just not necessarily making the decision at the beginning of the year to place the position there. It takes away FTEs, but I guess in terms of the support end, we would certainly not, take away that if we had to put it back in.
Is that what's meant by delay additions of building subs?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for example, we tend to not need it through the fall. So like the building, the kind of the daily we put in, the two that we've done more consistently have been since the start of the year. We do kind of a 2-week look at a time, and if we can take a break from it and put it back, we do. And so we would just kind of go back to that practice, which would be in the substitute line. So it's not to say we would take away, but we would just be a little bit more purposeful and take it away as an FTE add. And then the two ML coaches, this would be going into what we could do in terms of for carryover that we have in one grant. I say that just as in this would absolutely be a hold. This would be a 1 year. We would have to pull this into the budget in a year's time. Again, I just want to be honest.
That newly arrived grant is what Courtney's referencing. That goes away.
Yes.
we are able to roll some of it forward
Yes.
for FY '25.
And those would be two positions that we feel comfortable going into that, so they would need it. But we would have to, in next
Yeah.
year's budget, either find a grant for them to go into from here or find them into the budget, because they would have to stay. Sorry.
Thank you.
My meeting done.
So, no notes from Pat.
We can just skip it.
And so, again, the percent that we arrive at is the 13.3 that we started with. The biggest driver is the 1.8 that, and again, Ms. Young alluded to, Ms. Ryan and her really good, strong working relationship with the City Hall and her firm understanding of what the real numbers are driving special education, so.
And on the same point, she did seem to, and I think she had shared yesterday's meeting as well, even looking at moving the 1.8 up to a 2 million number for next year. So I think that kind of this understanding of that reserve amount is something that I think Ms. Ryan's done a nice job of working with the city on, which is separate from the stabilization. So really kind of the last to use funding. And to Ms. Ryan's credit, she's done a lot to kind of keep that 1.8 whole for the city to the best of her ability.
Any question? I mean,
Ms. Cormier.
Just which I don't know if you said which grant the Reeves assistant principal would be coming out of now.
So it's a preschool revolving. Yeah, so that's which in the preschool's pretty much fully housed at the Reeves, and so we fund a few things related to the preschool that's there. I don't want to speak on.
So it was a grant
It's
before,
not
or no?
Nope.
I thought you mentioned grant. I don't know why.
We've mentioned the grant for the 2 ML coaches.
Yeah, okay.
No, so the assistant principal this past year was in the preschool revolving account,
Yeah.
and it will go back to
Continue.
the preschool revolving account. We can't, again, some of these things, we cannot do them forever. We are comfortably able to move it back for next school year, for sure. We felt comfortable making that decision the other day. But, to some extent, there are a few Band-Aids.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I could, obviously, Ms. Ryan's not here to stand up and take a bow, but the 1.8, possibly to the 2 million. And again, the other district tuitions, the 27.27. Again, we've all heard each time, every presentation, how it goes up and down and back and forth. So it sounds as though, she's done enough with the buffer to keep that somewhat stable. Obviously, it's a moving target year in and year out, spring, summer, and fall for her department. So I'm very, very happy to see the city taking over in that, working with Ms. Ryan as to the tuitions and what's going on there. Same thing, again, along with Ms. Cormier's point about the assistant principal. We just hired this individual, so what happens with their contract when the money runs out? Are we going to?
no,
No,
It-
yeah,
it's fine. There's no liability.
it's a low
Yeah.
low risk, but it's
Yeah.
exactly where we paid it out this previous
Yeah.
year.
Okay, it's
And
just the
we-
money's coming from a grant
No,
rather than the
it's
budget.
a revolving fund.
Revolving.
Revolving
Yeah.
fund, all right.
Yeah.
And again,
Which we continue to put funding into. Again, I don't want to speak for there's other things that go into that account. You could seemingly support that position there beyond if we had to. It's not ideal, but we feel comfortable using it.
And one final comment or question, I guess, the vacant custodian spot, so that's,
So,
will get reduced by us to save 60?
yeah, we have multiple people retiring, custodial vacancies. The elementary schools were the ones that brought this up as potentially sharing a custodian if they needed to. So there's a cost savings there of $60,000.
And just as someone that was actively involved with the custodian's contract, I hope, they too will be apprised of what's going on in that category as well, so we don't have any troubles with, the union, so. Otherwise, building subs, you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. Coaches to the grants, the grants, the grants, the grants. And obviously, as in the past, Ms. Young, the administration will get us, as well as the city, a whole grant list of what's where that's going at a later date. But I think, to get from where you were 2 weeks ago to where we are tonight, I think this is a great move in the right direction, so thank you.
That's all I got.
For now.
All right. Ms. Wetzel,
Excuse me, thank you. I just wanted to commend the great work. And I did have 2 questions and then 1 thought. My first question, what's the difference between a Master's 5 and a Master's 3?
The salary?
Is it just the salary?
Yeah, so in other words, what Alex.
It's about 7,100.
Okay.
Yep.
So
So-
it's just basically identifying.
It's where you are on like the step
the
schedule.
5 steps.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure. And then my other question, the building subs, not having to dedicate it, does it cost more for us to hire a sub in for a day than to have a dedicated sub? Is there a price difference or is it the same?
No, it's the same. The way we costed it out was at the daily rate, so. And this gives us flexibility, I think,
Yep.
too. And as we looked at it, at the beginning of the year, we don't necessarily need. And so, as Ms. Young indicated, I think it was starting in January, we've been pretty consistently needing daily subs at those 2 schools especially, but we evaluate it every 2 weeks to see if it's something that we need to continue.
Got it. Okay, thank you. And then my last sort of just thought was the 56.3% of our students who are high needs, it does put a lot of stress on the staff. So I think it's just something to keep in mind as we're looking at the number of new staff we're bringing in to make sure that really can accommodate the high percentage of students that we have. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, Ms. Crowell.
I just had some questions. I don't think we publicly discussed the co-teachers at the kindergarten, and I was just wondering what the vision is for that programmatic change.
So we currently have that program at the Goodyear and the Malcolm White. We were fortunate that we were able to have 2 fellows through our partnership with Endicott College. So 2 fellows that served in that role. They were licensed teachers seeking a second license. And so they did that at the Goodyear and the Malcolm White. And what that's been really helpful for is that we have a lot of our students who leave our preschool program who aren't necessarily set for a specific program, but are a little bit more than kind of a resource room setting. And so this is a space for them to go into a supported kindergarten. And so that is a placement that's made out of our pre-K. And because we are not able to, as we know that it's difficult to get fellows, and right now we are not able to get 2 fellows for next year, so we're moving those positions into the budget for teachers. And we hope that the fellows who have done with us will maintain in place of choose for the position.
I just find it really important to highlight because maybe learners that are on the edge could end up with a special ed eligibility who are referral, but now they're able to stay in full inclusion, possibly. But that seems to be the goal.
And we
So I think
place
it's
from
really
all elementary schools. So we place from all elementary schools. So, if
So it's not just the Malcolm White
who should have been
or
assigned to
Goodyear.
one of the other elementary schools, but came out of the preschool, and we felt like it needed a supportive year in the co-top room. They get assigned as one of the co-top rooms.
It's just really cool. I really appreciate that update because it's just something that I wasn't updated on or wasn't fully aware of. I'm sure you've heard it before, but this is exciting and I'm happy to fund it.
Yeah.
That's really good for our learners. I'm sorry, I forgot to ask. Are they SPED certified, the co-teachers?
Yeah, so that's their licensure.
Oh,
So it's a
okay.
co-taught special ed gender certification process.
I'm getting all excited.
Yeah, it's very cool.
That is awesome. Thank you.
Any more questions at this point? Okay.
So the last slide is just some points of deliberation potentially for the committee. I labeled it other considerations. We brought this up at the last meeting. I didn't want to go through all of those slides necessarily, but the things that we didn't talk about were user fees, transportation, early retirement, and I'll save redistricting, but I don't know if, Alex, if you wanted to mention anything more than that, or...
The only thing I would say is that this, as Dr. Crowley's probably mentioned before, the city is open to potentially covering this one-time expense on early retirement. And for both early retirement and redistricting, they kind of go hand in hand with the budget cycle, so it's almost like we have three paths converging on each other. And, those numbers will kind of make more sense as we move along the process.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Vizio, where are we with current numbers tonight for early retirement as to, reading them, this information later? We have concrete
Yeah.
numbers tonight or not?
I do not know.
So from the last meeting, I believe there were 17 people that have indicated that they were going to retire next year or the year after.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so that,
range
that,
there.
and that was the range, that
All
slide. We don't know how many people would opt into early retirement, and so we have to have, as Mr. Vizio alluded to, the city is willing to support this initiative. But it's another conversation that we need to also have with the WTA and
Sure.
other union in the city, so.
And the committee would be.
Yeah.
And there would likely be other people in addition to the 17 that came out, so.
Yeah, that's kind of what my hope was.
Yeah.
If we can get 17 more on top of that 17, and,
Right.
a little cost savings there, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any additional questions?
On the early retirement, have we spoken to the union as far as like extending the dates, or are we going to wait for the redistricting plan?
So I'm in the process of trying to set up a meeting with the
Okay.
WTA leadership on this.
Just because I want people to have some idea and some time to think about it, but at the same time, we have to know what we're going to offer them.
Right.
So, it's kind of like a,
Agreed.
yeah. Okay, thanks.
Any additional questions on this? Ms. Scott?
Just that my thoughts on transportation fees, I mean, obviously, no, but I think when we look at redistricting and transportation connected to that, we might get a better picture of looking at transportation.
Yeah.
But I think doing it now, when we're also potentially moving elementary school lines, seems a bit premature. But I know that McKinnon is looking at transportation along, be able to look at it with fresh eyes.
All right.
Any action tonight on this?
I don't think we did not.
Just kind of an update kind of
No,
thing? Great.
I put it on here
Yeah.
if you want to deliberate any of these items as it relates. Okay. And then, so if you talk through redistricting a little bit.
Sure.
Or I close request, but
We've done that.
So just as a general update to the committee and to the public as it relates to the redistricting, we've tried to push out information to everybody in real time. We have engaged with McKibben Demographics. So it's a company that has done many Massachusetts communities, but also nationally. And so we have submitted all of our data to McKibben Demographics. And so we have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow to ensure that all of our data is there. We think it is, they think it is, but we're just crossing Ts, dotting Is, and making sure that we are moving forward. I appreciate the feedback earlier. This is moving very quickly. I've said to the committee, and we will tell you whatever you want to know as soon as we possibly can. We have been in consult with McKibben. Ms. Crowley was on a Zoom call with McKibben previously as well. And we will have the geocode. So now I'm saying words that I didn't know 3 weeks ago or a month ago. So we geocode everybody in the city. They take a look at the demographics and where people live and the age, and then use all of that information to equitably draw lines to make sure our schools are more balanced. And so that seems to be, we're waiting now for them to do that. And then they have pledged to give us different scenarios to then, we will give them to you to make decisions predicated on what it looks like. And just to be clear, the redistricting, the reduction, we have no idea. So I think there will be an expense to redistricting too. People will be potentially moving. We don't know what we don't know. And so I want to be very candid that this is in real time. I don't pretend to have a crystal ball to tell you where it's headed. But we are comfortable saying that they have everything they need. They've said that they can deliver on these timelines, and I anticipate that to be the case. But we will, if they say they can't for some reason, we also know that we need a plan B. We heard that at the previous meeting.
Any questions on the redistricting? We were all at the, or many of us at the update from the resources subcommittee where a lot of this was discussed as well. Ms. West?
Yes, I did. I just had a quick question on McKinnon, the parameters that we sent to them. That just, could you just elaborate a little bit more on maybe like what those parameters were that we sent over?
Sure. So they basically we gave them our school capacities and with the number of rooms that we have at every building, and some special ed programming that we have at different buildings. We sent them our class contractual size, and then we sent them our student information. And the feasibility study, thank you.
I had one more thought too. This really stems honestly from talking with people in the community. I think when that last reminder, a lot of people might not know about the new district from watching school communities and NSB. So I think that was really helpful that that's we sent out. I actually saw it attached to the Reeves S'mores newsletter, which was really great too. So I think it also helped reach a lot more people that way. But one of the questions I had around that was, and people have asked me, like, why are we doing it? So I think it's apparent to me, I know because I've been in all these discussions, like we're doing it because we don't know the library, we're doing it because it's business space, we're doing it because there's students in hallways, right? I think it would be helpful if we could maybe make one page or something about the reason why we're doing it, so that way we can send that to the community so then they can have that on a piece of paper. Like, okay, now I understand, and I think it might help with the communication and the interpretation of what's going on versus people just talking.
Sure.
Yeah.
And to the point, Rich, comment that would allow us to talk about the goals.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But it could also help us make sure we're staying on track too, because we have to do some of the goals that we want to accomplish.
Anything further on the distribution?
And this may be premature, but when you said that you sent the contractual class sizes, is there a class size that they're shooting for, leaving, a buffer for obviously new kids that come in?
So they, at the elementary level, it's 25 kindergarten, 26 1 through 5.
According to the contract?
Contractually, they shoot for 90% capacity to allow for some flexibility.
Okay, thank you.
So just if it helps, so you're really providing for them, like when here are all of the buildings, here are all of the rooms, here are every single room, and then here are the programs that we have, here are the number of rooms that each of our programs have, and here is the number of students within each of the rooms. And so I say that because really they're not, like we look at the schools and think of them in one way, they're really looking at an entire district. Here are the buildings, and here are all the ways that you could build them, right? And that's really kind of like why it's helpful, and it's hard for us to imagine them in a way that we don't think about them, but they're really looking at them as like, here is what exists in the district, and here are all the ways that it could look, and then you can give them like current lines so that they know, just one of the points earlier, what is kind of the least moving to the most moving across, right? Like they really do kind of that whole scope. But the way that they've explained it to us is that when you go above 90% is when you end up not having enough room in the building.
So just
So they're not like buffering like classroom or like we're thinking granular, like it's an entire building capacity.
So just to sort of clarify, so they'll come back to us with a number of different options that may run the gamut from, if we're talking about this on the class side level, it may have some variance there, it may have some variance in terms of numbers of students who are moving, we may have a lot of variance in terms of all these things. And so we will be able to take a look at those and just to sort of make sure that that's clear for the public.
And my understanding too is that you can then look at one and say, I like all of them of this. And if I wanted to make it have only this part instead, you can do that.
Okay. Take that up. All right.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
Ms. Crowell, go ahead.
My notes had reflected it was between 80 and 90. Did we,
For capacity,
yeah.
it's 90%.
Is it 90? Okay.
Anything further on this, Robert?
If I could, I guess, just curiosity-wise, obviously we talked about how the superintendent on geomap situations, we're looking at 90% capacity in the classrooms. I just didn't build in classrooms. I'm just trying to refresh my memory from Ms. Crowley's meeting, just other highlights that people, we weren't televised that evening, not a lot of people attended it. We were all here, but I'm just trying to think in my head out loud what other highlights we might be able to supply to the community this evening besides what we've done so far. But redistricting is a big step. We got a little bit out there, 90%, the geoscoping, the busing, unknowns, kind of the unknown still, but it's just kind of like what we're working with them. And you say you're meeting with them again tomorrow? Okay, so you'll have more, some of the concerns people have brought out. I'm just trying to remember, meeting what, like highlights that we can go compress with.
Well, I think the main thing was that the superintendent had made the first step in following our code, which was to find a consultant, and then we allowed them to use public funds to hire them and look to see what redistricting would look like, to present us scenarios. And that was really part of the update, with a reminder that this is really about student safety in the buildings, because the buildings, 3 buildings are really overpacked, and there may not be room next year, or there will not in certain buildings. So with that in the backdrop, we're trying to do it as professionally and long-term as possible. This isn't like panic time, quick, let's move children into the buildings. It's about getting a solution that is sustainable for 10 years. That was the heart of the update.
Okay, thank you.
Anything?
And those are
We're being efficient.
Yeah.
We've covered half. Yes, we have. Ms. West.
I just had one more thought, just on what we just spoke about, the update and communication with the public. I think continuing kind of those community updates that we've been doing will be really helpful in terms of the community understanding kind of what's going on. And even I go so far as to say we have the options, and it comes before we have the next school community meeting, looking at a special meeting again, where we really talk about those, because I think it's important that we really make sure we're over-communicating, because not everyone's on social, not everyone reads the newsletters, some people don't have a computer at their house, so it's very difficult to get some of that stuff electronically. Even, I don't know, but when the PTO sends flyers home for events, they send physical papers home. I'm a big believer in electronics only because it saves trees, but not everybody wants to read that way, so I don't know if that's something we want to think about. But that's sort of one last thought I had, just the communication piece, and how we're going to really communicate with the public, also communicate with the public, like sort of the timeline we have. And I know it's all kind of evolving, but I think just keeping everyone updated as much as we can is really important.
I appreciate that feedback. And so, yeah, I'll take a look at ways that we can communicate this in a sort of an ongoing way that doesn't get in the way of the work, but allows us to keep things moving. Thank you. Anything additional? Okay. All right, so I think we've largely covered our subcommittee reports, but finance personnel, is there anything that wasn't discussed earlier?
Well, we did meet, and we met at 3 o'clock, but we did have to take a break at a recess so we could see the eclipse, and that was all fine and good. And we did all the budgets from Alex, all the numbers that we did, and they said that the admin team will be meeting with the mayor tomorrow. So hopefully, this will be good news to him, and let them know that we are working on this. And maybe a request that they look at taking over utilities and homeless transportation, and that would get us to a 10.45% budget. So, I don't know if we just want to just ask the superintendent to do that on our behalf, and see if that would be feasible and something that we could do.
I think perhaps that might call for a vote so that we can
Yeah.
propose that to.
Yeah, well, I'll make a motion that we just ask that the city take over the cost of the utilities and homeless transportation.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed?
And a little bit of personnel. We just were told that Michelle Kelly is now the permanent assistant principal at every school. And the director of facility opening, there's already been 12 applications received as a 4-7, and you'll appoint somebody to be on that interview.
Yes, okay.
And we adjourned at 4:15.
Thank you very much. Members, if there's anyone, do we have a time yet on that in terms of interviews?
I'll work with Mr. Wyman and get back to you tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, and then I'll put that out to the committee and whoever's interested can let me know. All right, thank you very much. Let's see, community relations, I believe we have not met yet, correct? That's correct. Curriculum, same thing?
Actually, no, we have not met, but I think we had a little earlier discussion, Mr. Dunn was talking to us about the very successful literacy night at the Alta Vista. I know we have some upcoming literacy nights, if you wanted to mention those, just not part of the report, just informational purposes.
Yes, they are Thursday, this Thursday the 11th. We have the Shamrock Literacy Night at 6 o'clock and the Goodyear Literacy Night at 6 o'clock.
You know, curriculum, but fun stuff too. Thank you for that, Ms. Young.
Curriculum's fun.
Curriculum's fun, yeah. Literacy night's a lot of fun.
Yes, I was, I had the pleasure of attending the Alta Vista Literacy Luau. Mr. Mulrennan was there. I don't know if other members were able to join after, but it was a great time. Kids were having a wonderful time. It was well attended, despite the snow.
Yeah.
Snowy night.
A snowy luau.
Yeah, good call on those schools. All right, now I'm all set, curriculum, thank you.
All
Mr.
right,
Chairman.
policy subcommittee.
We have not met. We will be meeting Friday, April 26th at 7:45 a.m. To discuss the pending dress code policy. We have completed the technology update from Ms. Judkins, so we can review that. And then Mr. Wyman has been discussing the FMLA policy, and Ms. Rania Caldwell will be there to talk about translation and interpretation. So come on down.
Thank you very much.
Right here.
Right here, got it.
Resources, we had largely covered your minutes. Anything else in there?
No, just for the record, we met on April 3rd at 6 p.m. And my minutes were discussed earlier and converted into the superintendent's update, which went out to the entire school community. So, I think I'm covered. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And finally, student services.
We haven't met yet, but to note, tomorrow at 6 o'clock at the high school, there'll be a presentation on the new IEP that'll be rolling out for this coming school year. So anyone is welcome to attend. It will also be a recording as well, so if you're not able to be there in person, you'll be able to still view it. And we'll plan to meet again in May. Great,
Thank you very much. All right, correspondence. We had a number of emails referenced earlier regarding redistricting with really just sort of a variety of different concerns, questions, discussion points, suggestions. And those are all being distributed to the committee and to administration so that we can take them under account as we go forward. Beyond that, I didn't have any other correspondence on anything other than redistricting. Has any other member received anything that they want to log?
If I could, Mr. Chairman, just
Mr.
make,
Warren.
the emails you're referencing, just make sure they become part of the permanent record for
Yes.
that purpose, so I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor of making those emails part of the permanent record?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
There you go. They are.
They are, right.
They are, now they are.
Yeah.
But now we've said it.
Now
Okay.
they are.
And scheduling a public hearing, we don't need to do that tonight, we'll do that in the next meeting.
I think we may be best served to schedule now. So, members, in discussion with superintendent regarding the budget, we are coming up towards the deadline, at least what has been previously discussed with the mayor. I know the mayor's mentioned potential flexibility, but we haven't seen that at any additional dates. So, operating under the assumption that we are looking at a May 1st deadline, I'd like to see if we could try to schedule a public hearing for preferably the 30th of April or a date thereabouts, 29th or the 30th of April. Is that a date in the evening that would work for?
The 30th does.
That would allow us to vote on a budget to send to City Hall on the 24th, be able to post it publicly in time to hold a public hearing on the 30th and take that.
CPAC meeting
Yeah.
the 30th, I believe.
It is, I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah.
There is.
That is true, unfortunately, but we have to take precedence on that. And so I think we will, unless there are objections, we can move forward with this.
I'm not objecting so much as it would be, Mr. Chairman, obviously, upcoming meeting of the mayor, again, could be extended, perhaps, not, no other reason than, working with Mr. Dizio's office and all that's going on, perhaps.
So,
It's worth asking, but I mean, right now, I think the 30th would be fine with the following meeting, April 1, May 1, sorry. Yeah, May 1. But just, if you want to ask questions of the mayor, we can ask him that as well.
and that's certainly something we can bring up at the meeting tomorrow, and should the mayor say, yes, we have some additional time, then we could certainly cancel the public hearing.
Sure.
But I think scheduling it now would give the public plenty of time to understand the process and give us a clear timeline moving forward.
So I'll make a motion that we schedule the public hearing on the budget for Tuesday, April 30th, 7 PM.
Works for me.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Mr.
Just if, tomorrow at the meeting, whatever way it goes, we may have to have another meeting for finance, so next week. So I don't know what the plans are with school vacation, if anybody's gonna actually have a life, but
No,
Yeah.
In the office.
He can let us know, but we also have the week of the 22nd too, if we need
Yeah.
to delay it that
16
much.
and 17.
yeah. All right.
I will not be present, but I can certainly call in.
So,
Well, 6.
Ms. Chisholm, I'll let you know
Okay, thanks.
after the meeting
Yep.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Any additional correspondence, future agenda items beyond public hearing, budget, redistricting, anything else? No. Okay.
All the fun stuff.
Then I will accept a.
Motion to
Oh,
adjourn.
sorry,
No,
Mrs.
wait,
Chisholm.
I
Go
would
ahead.
just like to say for the junior kids at the high school, please have a safe prom this Friday night.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to wish them all a great time, but just please be safe.
And Ms. Young, sorry.
Yes, no, it's all right. I just want to put it out now. There should be finalized plans and that should be pushed out to the community. But the second week of May, we're finalizing the date, but we're going to be having an all incoming kindergarten open house at the high school, which will also have on-site registration, as well as all of our elementary school principals will be there and doing a welcome to kindergarten for any incoming kindergartners who will be in public schools. Again, I believe the date's finalized, but I don't want to be wrong and send out that information. But that information will be pushed out really towards the end of this week, but I'm recognizing the school vacation and then the time after. But it will be the second week of May, and that will be at the high school, and we'll be providing lots of different resources and all of that.
Time roughly? Like
Thank you.
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock. Yeah.
We should also mention Tanner Fest coming up
Yes, on the 27th.
April 27th.
Yep,
So,
thank you.
unless there's anything further, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Yeah.
See ya.
Get a note from under it.